Sonnets to Orpheus, first series. A tree sprang up. O sheer transcendence! O Orpheus sings! O tall tree in the ear! And all was still, but even in that silence a new beginning, hint, and change appeared. Creatures of silence crowded out of the clear, freed forest, out of their dens and lairs, and it was clear that inner silence of theirs wasn't out of any cunning, any fear, but out of listening. Growl, shriek, and roar shrank in their hearts. And where they'd been hardly a hut before to take this in, a dugout carved from their darkest desire, with a lintel of trembling timber, you erected temples for them in their inner ear. 2. And yet barely a girl, and leaping out of this happy harmony of song and lyre, and shining clearly through her veils of spring, and made herself a bed inside my ear, and slept in me, and her sleep was all the trees I always marveled at, those palpable distances, the felt meadows, and every mystery that filled me with awe. She slept the world. How did you perfect her, singing God, so she didn't crave to be awake first? See, she arose and slept. Where is her death? Oh, will you invent the leitmotif before your song sings its own grave? Where does she shrink to from me? Barely a girl yet. 3. A god can do it, but tell me, will you, how a man can trail him through the narrow lyre? His mind is forked where two hearts' arteries intersect. There stands no temple for Apollo. Singing as you teach us isn't desiring nor luring something conquered in the end. Singing is being. For a god, it's almost nothing. But when do we exist, and when does he spend the earth and stars on our being? Young man, your loving isn't it, even if your mouth is pried open by your voice. Learn to forget your impulsive singing. Soon it will end. True singing is a different kind of breath. A breath about nothing. A gust in the God. A wind. 4. Oh, you tender ones every now and then step into breath that doesn't notice you. Let it touch your cheeks, divide in two. Behind you it will tremble together again. Oh, you who are blessed, you who are whole, you who seem to be the beginning of hearts, bows for the arrows, and the arrows as targets. Only tear-glazed will your smile forever glow. Don't be afraid to suffer. Replace the heaviness back on the earth's own weight. The mountains are heavy, so are the seas. You couldn't support even the trees you planted as children. They've grown so great. Ah, but the breezes, ah, but the spaces. 5. Erect, no, memorial stone. Let the rose bloom every year to remind us of him, because it's Orpheus, his metamorphosis. Is in this and this no other name should trouble us. Once and for all, when there's a song, it's Orpheus, he comes and goes. Isn't it enough that now and then he's able to outlive the bowl of roses a few days? Oh, how he has to vanish so you'll know, though he too were afraid of vanishing, even while his words transcending being. Here, he's already there where you don't follow. The lyre's lattice doesn't snare his hands, and he obeys, even as he oversteps the bounds. 6. Is he one of us? No. His wide nature grew out of both realms. Whoever is known the roots of the willow is better trained to bend the willow's limbs. Don't leave bread or milk on the table when you go to bed. It attracts the dead. But under the mildness of the eyelid let him, the magician, let him mingle their look with all that can be seen. And let the spell of earth's smoke and of rue be as true to him as the clearest cloud. Nothing can ruin the genuine sign for him, whether from graves or rooms. Let him praise the clasp, the ring, the gourd. 7. To praise, that's it. Called to praise, he came like ore out of the silence of stone. Oh, his heart's a perishable press of a wine that's eternal for men. When he's in a godlike example's grip, his voice isn't gravelled by drought. All turns vineyard, all turns grape, ripened in his sensitive south. Neither mold in the vaults of kings that falls from the gods makes a lie out of his praise. He's one of the messengers who stays, still extending bowls of glorious fruit deep inside the doors of the dead. 8. Only in the sphere of praise may lamentation walk, water spirit of the weeping spring, who watches closely over our cascading, so it will be clear even on the rock that supports the gates and altars. See, around her quiet shoulders dawns the hovering feeling. She's the youngest one among the spirits, mood sisters. Jubilation knows and longing grants. Only lament still learns. With girlish hands, she counts the ancient evil through the nights. But suddenly, unpracticed and askant, she lifts one of our voices' constellations into the sky, unclouded by her breath. 9. Only one who's also raised the lyre among shades may return unending, praise with warning. Only one who's tasted the poppy of the dead, with them, won't forget the tone so delicate. Although the pool's reflection blurs before us often, know the image. Only in the double world do voices become eternal and mild. You ancient limestone tombs who never vanished from my feelings, you who conduct the glad old Roman water, like a wandering song I greet you, or those so open like the pupils of a happy waking shepherd, full of silence and honeysuckle, from which charmed butterflies fluttered. All that a person wrenches from doubt I greet. The mouths opened again, after having known what silence means. Do we know, friends, do we or not? These two mold the hesitating span of time into features of the human. 11. Look at the sky. Is no constellation called rider? Because this is strangely branded in us, this earthly pride, and another who drives and holds it, and whom it carries. Isn't this like our sinewy way of being? To be whipped on, then reined in, track and turning, but one touch, understanding. New distances, and the two are one. But are they? Or don't both signify the road they take together? They're already unspeakably divided by table and trough. Even the linking of stars is a lie. But for a while now let's be happy to believe the symbol. That's enough. 12. Hail to the spirit who can link us, because we live in symbols really. And with tiny steps, the clocks walk beside our primal day. Without knowing our real place, we act as if we actually interacted. Antennas feel antennas, and the empty spaces carried. Pure tension, O music of the powers. Don't our trivial transactions deflect all your interruptions? Though he works and worries, the farmer never reaches down to where the seed turns into summer. The earth grants. 13. Banana and pear, plump apple, gooseberry, all these reveal life and death inside the mouth. I feel. Read it in the features of a child. Who's tasting them? This comes from far. Is the unspeakable slowly growing in your mouth? Released from the fruit's pulp, astonished. Discoveries flow where words usually were. Dare to say what you call apple, this sweetness that condenses first. So in the taste that's tenderly intense. It may become awake, transparent, double meaning, clear, bright, earthy hours. O knowledge, feeling, joy, immense. 14. We're involved with flower, fruit, grapevine. They speak more than the language of the year. Out of the darkness a blaze of colors appears, and one perhaps that has the jealous shine of the dead. Those who strengthen the earth. What do we know of the part they assume? It's long been their habit to marrow the loam. with their own free marrow through and through. Now the one question, is it done gladly, the work of sullen slaves? Does this fruit thrust up, clenched towards us, its masters, sleeping with roots, granting us only out of their surplus? This hybrid made of mute strength and kisses, are they the masters? 15. Wait, that tastes good. It's already bolting. Just a little music, a tapping, a hum. Girls, you girls who are silent and warm, dance the taste of the fruit you've been tasting. Dance the orange, who can forget it? How drowning in itself, it refuses its own sweetness. You've possessed it, exquisite, it's been transmuted into you. Dance the orange, discharge the warmer landscape out of you, so the ripe will glisten in their native breezes, glowing strip. Perfume from perfume, become sisters with the pure, resistant rind, the juice that fills the happy fruit. 16. You, my friend, are lonely because, with pointing words and fingers, we slowly make the world our own, perhaps its weakest, most precarious part. Who points a finger at a smell? But you feel many of the powers that threaten us. You know the dead, and you cower from the magic spell. See now we must bear the pieces and parts together, as if they were the whole. Helping you will be hard. Above all, don't plant me in your heart. I'd grow too fast. But I shall guide my master's hand and say, here, this is Esau in his pelt. 17. Deep down, the oldest tangled root of all that's grown, the secret source they've never seen, helmet and horn of hunters, old men's truths, wrath of brothers, women like lutes, branch pushing branch, not one of them free. One, oh, climb higher, higher, yet they still break. But this top one finally bends into a lyre. 18. Do you hear the new master? Droning and throbbing? Its prophesying promoters are advancing. No hearings truly keen in all this noise. Still now each machine part wills its praise. See the machine, how it spins and wreaks revenge, deforms and demeans us, since its power comes from us. Let it do its work and serve serene. 19. Even if the world changes as fast as the shapes of the clouds, all perfected things at last fall back to the very old, over what's passing and changing, freer and wider. Your overture is lasting, God with the lyre. Pains beyond our grasp, love hasn't been learned, and whatever eliminates us in death is still secret. Only the song above the land blesses and celebrates. 20. But Master, tell me what to dedicate to you. Say it, you who taught creatures their ear, my memory of one spring day, its evening, in Russia. A horse there. Across from the village the white horse came, a rope on one front fetlock. To be alone all night in the meadows, how the shock of his mane on his neck beat in time with his high spirits in that clumsy shackled gallop, how the springs of stallion blood leapt, how he sang and listened, he felt the distances. Your cycle of myths was sealed in him. His image I dedicate it. 21. Spring has returned again. The earth is like a child who's memorized poems. Many, so many, it was worth the long, painful lesson. She wins the prize. Her teacher was strict. We liked the white in the old man's whiskers. Now, when we ask what green or blue is, right away she knows. She has the answer. Earth, lucky earth, on vacation, play with the children now. We long to catch you, happy earth. The happiest will win. Oh, what her teacher taught her all those things, and what's imprinted on the roots, and long complicated stems. She sings it, she sings. We're the drivers, but take time's stride as trivial beside what remains forever. Everything hurrying will already be over, for only the lasting is our initiator. Boys, oh, don't waste your courage on being fast or on risking flight. All these are at rest, darkness and light, flower and text. 23. Oh, only then, when flight will no longer rise into the skies, silences for its own sake, self-sufficient, so that in shining profiles, like a successful tool, it may play the wind's darling, slim, confidently swaying, only when a pure destination means more than adolescent pride in swelling machines. Will one, hell-bent to win, closing on the distances, be his lonely flight's own end? 24. Shall we reject our oldest friendship, the great, undemanding gods? Because the tough steel we trained so hard does not know them, or suddenly seek them on a map, although they take the dead from us. These powerful friends never brush against our wheels. We've moved our baths and banquets far away, and for years too slow for us. We always outrun their messengers, more lonely now, wholly dependent on each other. Not knowing each other, no longer do we build those lovely paths, rambling but straight. Now only in boilers do former fires burn, heaving hammers always growing bigger. But we grow weaker, like swimmers. 25. But you, now you, I knew you like a flower whose name I don't know. Once more I'll remember and describe you to them. You who evaporated the unquellable cries beautiful. Playmate. Dancer first, whose body, full of hesitation, paused suddenly as if her youth were being cast in bronze. Mourning and listening. Then from the great Creator's music fell into her transformed heart. Sickness was near, already mastered by darkening. Her blood pulsed darker, but as if suspicious for a moment, it leapt out into its natural spring. Again and again, clotted by dark and collapse, it gleamed earth, until after terrible throbs, it trod through that hopelessly open door. 26. But you, divine one, you resounding to the end, when attacked by the swarm of rejected maenads, gorgeous God, you drowned out their shrieks with order. The architecture of your song rose from the destroyers. Not one of them could crush your head or lyre, despite their wrestling and raging and touching you. All the sharp rocks they fired at your heart turned tender, gifted with hearing. Ravaged by vengeance, at last they broke and tore you. But the echo of your music lingered in rocks and lions, trees and birds. You still sing there. Oh, you lost God, you everlasting clue. Because hate finally dismembered, scattered you, now were merely nature's mouth and ears. Second series. 1. Breath. You invisible poem. Steady, sheer exchange between the cosmos and our being. Counterpoise in which I rhythmically become. Single wave whose gradual sea I am. Sparest of all possible seas, winning the universe. How many regions in space have been inside me already? Many winds are like my sun. You air, still full of places once mine, do you know me? You once my words' sphere, leaf, and smooth rind. 2. Just as, at times, the nearest sheet of paper quickly catches the master's genuine stroke, so mirrors often capture the unique, sacred smile of girls in them. When they appraise the morning all alone or in the glow of helpful tapers, and later only a reflection falls into that bath of their real features, into the slow waning glow of coals in charred fireplaces. Would have eyes stared at once, glimpses of a life forever lost. Ah, the earth, who knows her losses? Only one who, still praising them out loud, would sing the heart born into the whole. 3. Mirrors. No one's ever yet described you, knowing what you really are. Time's interstices, you seem filled with nothing but the holes of filters. You, still the squanderers of the empty hall, when the twilight comes wide as woods, and the chandelier, like a 16-pointer, vaults where nothing can set foot. At times you're full of painting. A few seem to have seeped into you. Others you shyly sent away. But the most beautiful will stay until the clear, freed Narcissus penetrates there to her chaste kisses. 4. Oh, this is the creature that doesn't exist. They didn't know that. Besides, its neck, its bearing, and its stride, even to the light of its calm gaze, they loved it. In fact, it never was. But since they loved it, a pure beast came to be. They always allowed room, and in that room, clear and unlocked, it freely raised its head and barely needed to be. They didn't feed it with corn, but always with the chance that it might be. And this gave the creature such power. It grew one horn out of its brow, one horn. It came here to a virgin all white, and was in the mirror silver, and in her. Flower muscle of the anemone, slowly, slowly stretching open to her meadow's dawn, until the loud skies' polyphony of light pours down into her womb. Muscle of endless reception tensed in the still star of the bloom, at times so fully overmanned that the sinking call to calm is barely able to recontract the wide-sprung edges of your petals. You, will and power of how many worlds? We are the violent, we can last longer, but when, in which of all possible lives are we at last open and receivers? 6. Enthroned rose. To them in ancient times, you were a calyx with a simple ring. For us, you are the full, the countless bloom, the inexhaustible thing. In your wealth, you shimmer like drape over drape on a body of nothing but splendor. Yet your single petal is both the escape from and the denial of any attire. For centuries, your perfume has been calling its sweetest names across to us. Suddenly it lies on the air like fame. Still, we don't know what to call it. We're guessing, and over to it memory carries what we have begged from hours filled with names. 7. Flowers ultimately sisters of arranging hands, those hands of girls from now and then, who often lay from end to end across the garden table, drooping and gently wounded. waiting for water that would rescue you once more from that beginning death, and now held up again between the streaming poles of sympathetic fingers that can do even more good than you guessed, light ones. When you found each other again in the vase, cooling slowly, exuding warmth of girls like confessions from yourselves, like dreary and exhausting sins committed by your being plucked, but as a bond again with them, your allies in blooming. 8. You few playmates of a childhood long ago, in the scattered gardens of the city, how we found and liked each other timidly, and like the lamb with the speaking scroll spoke silently. When all of us were happy, it was no one's. Whose was it? And how it melted in that crushing crowd, and in the long years' anxiety. Carriages rolled around us, alien, stark. Houses stood around us, solid but unreal, and none ever knew us what was real in that all. Nothing, only the balls, their glorious arcs. Not even the children, but sometimes one, oh, a dying one, stepped under the falling ball. In memory of Egon von Rilke. 9. Judges don't boast because you've abolished torture, and the neck's no longer shackled by iron, because a planned spasm of mercy twists you more tenderly. No hearts elated, not one. The scaffold will give back what is received. For ages, as children give their last year's birthday toys, into the heart that's high, pure, and open like a gate, the God of true mercy would enter differently. He'd come gripped with power as gods are, and as radiant, more than a wind for the great confident ships. Not less than the subtle secret understanding that conquers us silently within, like a quiet playing child of a cosmic coupling. 10. As long as it dares to exist as spirit, instead of obeying, the machine threatens everything we've gained. It hacks the stone starker for more determined building, so we won't be drawn by the lovelier lingering of the master hand. Nowhere does it stand aside so we might once escape it, and oiling itself in a silent factory, become its own thing. It is life. It believes it's all-knowing, and with the same mind makes and orders and destructs. But for us, existence is still enchanted. It's still beginning in 100 places. A playing of pure powers no one can touch and not kneel to and marvel. Faced with the unutterable, words still disintegrate, and ever new out of the most quivering stones, music builds her divine house in useless space. 11. Insatiable conquering man, Many of death's peaceful rules have been established from the time you first insisted on hunting. I know you better than a trap or net strip of sail they used to hang down into the caverns of karst. They lowered you softly as if you were a signal celebrating peace. But then a boy gave your edge a twist, and out of the caves the night threw a handful of tumbling pale doves into the light. But even that's not right. Let every breath of pity be far from witnesses, not only from the hunter who, alert at the right time, acts and accomplishes his business. Killing's one shape of our restless affliction. For the spirit that's serene, whatever happens to us is right. Will transformation. Oh, be crazed for the fire in which something boasting with change is recalled from you. That designing spirit, the earthly's master, loves nothing as much as the turning point of the soaring symbol. What wraps itself up in endurance is already the rigid. Does it feel safe in that unpretentious gray shelter? Beware from afar. The hardest warns the hard, and oh, the upswing of an absent hammer. Whoever pours himself out like a spring, he's known by knowing. And she guides him enthralled through the serene creation that often ends with beginning and begins with ending. Every happy space they wander through astounded is a child or a grandchild of departure, and the transformed Daphne, feeling herself laurel, wills that you change into wind. 13. Be ahead of all departure, as if it were behind you like the winter that's just passed. For among winters there's one so endlessly winter that, wintering out, your heart will really last. Be dead forever in Eurydice. Rise again, singing more, praising more. Rise into the pure harmony. Be here among the vanishing in the realm of entropy. Be a ringing glass that shatters as it rings. Be, and at the same time know the implication of non-being, the endless ground of your inner vibration, so you can fulfill it fully just this once. To nature's whole supply of speechless, dumb, and also used up things, the unspeakable sums. Rejoicing, add yourself, and nullify the count. 14. Look at the flowers. True to earth's ways, we lend them fate from the rim of fate. But who knows if they deplore their decay? It's up to us to be their regret. All wants to float, but we trudge around like weights, Ecstatic with gravity we lay ourselves on everything. Oh, what tiresome teachers we are for things, while they prosper in their ever childlike state. If one took them into intimate sleep and slept deeply with things, oh, how light he'd come back, changed with change of day, out of a mutual depth. Or perhaps he'd say, and they'd bloom and praise him, the convert who's now like one of them, all the calm sisters and brothers in the meadow's wind. 15. O fountain mouth, you giver, who speaks the inexhaustible, the pure, the one, you marble mask in front of the water's flowing face, and in the background the origin of aqueducts, from far away past graves, from the slopes of the Apennines. They bring you what you say, what then beyond your black and aging chin finally falls into the basin before it. This is the ear laid down asleep, the marble ear in which you always speak, an ear of earth. She's only talking with herself alone. Slip a picture in, it seems to her you're interrupting. Torn open by us over and over again, the God is the place that heals. We're sharp because we will, no, but he's scattered and serene. Even the pure, the sacred offering, he accepts no other way into his world, motionless. He stands confronting it, the unconditional goal. Out of the well heard by us here, only the dead drinks. When the God signals silently to him, the dead, to us only noise is offered, and out of a more quiet instinct, the lamb begs for its bell. 17. Where, in what heavenly watered gardens, in what trees, from what lovingly unsheathed flower calyxes, do the strange fruits of consolation ripen, those precious fruits, one of which you find perhaps in the trampled field of your poverty. Time after time you marvel at the size of the fruit, its soundness over its tender peel, and that a thoughtless bird or jealous worm below didn't steal it before. Are there trees flocked by angels then, and so strangely bred by slow, clandestine garden hands, that they produce us without being ours? Shadows and shades because we ripen too soon, and whither again have we never had the power to disorder the composure of these serene summers? 18. Dancing girl, oh, you translation of all vanishing into act, how you made it clear, and that final flourish, that tree of motion, didn't it wholly possess the hard-turned year? Didn't it bloom so your swirl a moment ago might swarm around it, suddenly a summit of stillness? Also, wasn't it summer above, Wasn't it sunlight, the warmth, that immeasurable warmth out of you? But also it bore your tree of rapture. Aren't these its tranquil fruits? The jug streaked ripe, and the vase even riper. And in the images didn't the drawing endure that dark stroke your eyebrow quickly scrawled on the wall of its own turning? 19. Gold lives somewhere in an indulgent bank, and it's intimate with thousands. But even to a copper penny, that beggar, the blind one, is like a lost place, a dusty corner under a trunk. All along, money feels at home in shops and shows up decked in silk, carnations, furs. He, the silent one, stands in the breath stops of all that breathing money as it sleeps or stirs. Oh, how does that always opened hand close at night? Tomorrow fate will haul it out again and hold it out every day, ever destructible, miserable, bright. If only someone, a seer, stunned, finally understood its lasting value and praised it. That's sung only by the singer, heard only by the god. 20. How far between the stars, and yet how much farther still what we learn from the present. Someone, a child, for example, and another, a neighbor. Oh, how inconceivably distant. Perhaps fate measures us with the span of being, so that to us it seems strange. Think how many spans, just from a man to a woman, when she avoids him and longs. All is far, and nowhere does the circle close. See on the table nicely set, in the dish, how odd the faces of the fish. Fish are dumb, one used to think, who knows? But isn't there a place at last where perhaps their speech is spoken without fish? 21. My heart, sing the gardens you haven't known, like clear, inaccessible gardens poured in glass. Ecstatic, sing the incomparable roses and fountains of Ispahan or Shiraz, praise them. My heart, prove that you can do without them, that it's you their ripening figs have in mind, that your friendship with their breezes between branches in all bloom rises to the pitch of vision. Avoid the error of believing that you're being deprived, for that decision you once made to be. Silken thread you became part of the weaving. Whatever pattern you're part of most intrinsically, even just for a moment in this life of pain, feel that the whole is meant, the glorious tapestry. Oh, in spite of fate, the glorious surplus of our existence, foaming over in the parks, or like stone men braced under balconies, crowding the cornerstones of high arches. Oh, the brassy bell lifting its bludgeon daily against the daily dull, or the one in Karnak, the column that outlives the almost eternal temples. Today abundances, the same ones, race by, but only as a rush from the horizontal yellow day into the more magnified, dazzling night. But the frenzy passes and leaves no trace, arcs of flight across the air, and those who controlled them, maybe none is meaningless, but only as thought. 23. Call me to that one of your hours which is incessantly resisting you, close as a dog's begging face, but turned away as ever, when you think it's finally caught. What's taken like this is most yours. We're free. Where we thought we were welcomed, we were sent from there. Afraid, we claw only for a hold. We sometimes too young for what's old, and too old for what never was. We're just only where we praise, nonetheless. For oh, we're the bow and the axe, and the sweetness of ripening risk. 24. Oh, the ever-fresh pleasure from loosened clay, virtually no one helped the earliest darers. Nevertheless, cities rose out of happy bays. Water and oil, nonetheless, filled the pitchers. Gods, we plot them out in daring models first, which disgruntled fate destroys for us again. But there the immortals, listen, we must hear him out who will hear us in the end. We, one generation through millennia, mother and father always more full of the child of the future who later, when he has outgrown us, will shatter us. We, the endlessly risked, how much time we own, and only closed-mouthed death knows what we are, and when he lends us, what he always gains. 25. Listen, already you can hear the working of the first hose. Again, the human rhythm in the early hard spring earth's unyielding stillness. Whatever is coming doesn't seem stale to you. What's already come toward you so often seems to be approaching you like something new. You always expected, but never seized it. It captured you. Even the leaves of wintering oaks in the evening radiate a future brown. Sometimes breezes exchange signs. Black are the bushes, yet piles of manure lie on the fields, an even richer black. Each passing hour grows younger. 26. How a bird's cry can move us, any once created crying, but even children playing in the open cry beyond real cries. Cry accident. They drive their screams as wedges into those interstices of cosmic space in which bird cries go unharmed as men go into dreams. Oh, where are we? Freer and freer, like kites torn loose. Tattered by wind, we race in midair, edged with laughter. Singing God order the criers, so they awake resounding like a current, carrying the head and the lyre. 27. Does time, the destroyer, really exist? When will it shatter the peaceful mountain's tower? When will the demiurge overpower this heart that always belongs to the gods? Are we really as anxiously brittle as fate wants to prove us? Is childhood so deep, so full of promise in its roots later made still? Ah, the apparition of impermanence. It slides through the innocent receiver as if it were steam, as these which we are the drivers. Among the lasting powers, we still matter as a divine means. 28. Oh, come and go, you still barely a child. For an eye wink perfect, the symbol of dance, into a sheer constellation of dance, one of them in which we momentarily excel. Nature's primitive ordering, for she reached full hearing only when Orpheus sang. You were the one from the past, still excited and slightly surprised when a tree took so long deciding whether it would go into your ear. You still knew that place where the resounding lyre arose, that unheard of center. So you tried out your lovely steps, hoping to turn your friend's look and direction someday toward that restoring celebration. 29. Silent friend of many distances, feel how your breath is still expanding space. Let yourself peel among the beams of dark belfries. Whatever preys on you will grow strong from this nourishment, no transformation through and through. What experience has been most painful to you? If the drinking's bitter turn to wine, in this vast night, be the magic power at your senses' intersection, the meaning of their strange encounter. And if the earthly has forgotten you, say to the still earth, I flow. To the rushing waters speak. I am.